Okay, take four. I mentioned last week I do multiple takes before getting a good one. But one thing about researching the Seminole Wars, you try to get different voices, different points of view, and it's very difficult when all you have left is the written record. These people died over 100 years ago. Um, and so all we have of the native point of view is what other people wrote down, let's say through treaty talks or meetings at the Indian Agency. So I found a real good one that I want to share with you. It's a discussion of different issues that Miccosukee Chief, the head of the Seminole and Miccosukee at the time, John Hicks Mathla, he's trying to talk to the President of the United States. So anyway, going through the Indian Affairs papers, and here I was. I mentioned last week going through those, and so I actually found a good talk here. But even better is that I found it transcribed, so I don't have to transcribe all that. I got valuable things to do, like work and uh, things like that. So here is the Florida Territorial Papers there. You can buy these as used books from the different used book websites. There's about 6 volumes with the Florida Territorial Papers. I would not pay a lot of money. These ones I paid $20 or $30 a volume a few years ago, and that's what you'll still get today. Some places have outrageous prices and charge 200, which is ridiculous for a book that's only just a little bit older than me. This is Territorial Papers of the United States by Carter, Volume 23, Florida Territory, 1824 to 1828. It's about 1,200 pages long. And then there's the same thing, but it's bound different. Uh, it's a smaller copy. The font, the printing font is smaller. I don't know if you can see, well, you can't really see it very good. And this is 1,150 pages, so not too much bigger, but but they're pretty heavy. So so what we have is that the Seminole chiefs for a long time, or the Seminole Miccosukee people together, the United States only considers them the Florida Indians at the time. And they have several issues they're trying to talk to the president about. And they're not getting to see the president. They get to Washington and they're talking to the superintendent of Indian Affairs. This, of course, is chief leading the delegation, Chief John Hicks or Tecosia Mathla. One of my favorite McKenney Hall portraits because it's a full-length portrait showing his long coat and his leggings. Pretty fine there. I like all the detail on that. In fact, I got a painting on my wall in front of me right now, folio size. And he is ended up talking with the superintendent of Indian Affairs, Thomas McKenney, who was in that position. Right now is President John Quincy Adams. And eventually, Andrew Jackson will become president, and they'll be in disagreements of some things. Kind of interesting that he is often mistaken for Andrew Jackson at the time. And I need to share that story another time when I have it available. So let's talk about the letter that's transcribed. But the issues are here's a map by Tanner, 1834. It shows the Indian reservation. And every Florida map at the time, the reservation is different, different shape and size and location. I don't think it was ever surveyed exactly right. And on the Tanner map, you could zoom in, you see the Seminole Agency in Fort King at the northern boundary. Glassell Springs is Silver Springs. And so here's another map. And the issue is, you can see on the here, this is, I think, Woodburn Potter's map. Zoom in on Fort King. You see the long swamp and the big swamp. Now, the originally the Indian reservation included the long swamp, but not the big swamp. But a lot of the Seminole and Miccosukees wanted to settle in the big swamp because they said it had more area to grow crops. There wasn't much good area outside of that. Here it is on the General Scott's map from 1836 when the war had started. You can see it much easier here, Fort King, and of course, Big Swamp's different on every map as well. So that's pretty neat. The, actually, I also have a framed copy of this map. So, uh, and there's Camp Smith and Twigs near Fort Drane. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, it's right there. So this began the letter from um, Indian Agent Gad Humphreys to the Secretary of War, talk filed under the Florida Indians. Sir, I have the honor to enclose herewith the talk of the delegation of Seminole Indians now in the city in Washington, D.C., in reply to one received from you and the by the hand of Colonel Thomas McKenney. So there's a series of letters, and I'm not going to read them all. I'm just going to read Chief John Hicks's reply from this. And here's the first page of that. And I go to my transcriptions. Talk of the Florida delegation of Indians delivered by Takosi Amathla, head chief, in reply to one from Honorable James Barber, Secretary of War. Brothers, we have heard the talk you sent us by our agent. You say our great father gives us permission to occupy the land we ask for, the big swamp, until he may want to send us from it. This does not please us. The land we occupy, we expect, will be considered our own property to remain as such forever, unless we think proper to part with it. If this is refused to us, we cannot be happy, for we do not like the thoughts of being put to the trouble of moving again. The hardship we suffered from our first removal gave us pain enough. We do not wish to feel it again, and we have such confidence in the justice of our great Father that we do not believe he will force it upon us, but will comply with our demands and give us more land. This was promised us by the Treaty of St. Augustine. That's the Treaty of Moultrie Creek. We only ask that this promise should be complied with. It is necessary to make us comfortable. The tract of land embraced in our present limits of our territory is small and very poor. We cannot live on it. Many have been obliged to settle in the big swamp where some good land has been found. Give that to us also. We shall then be able to make bread for our wives and children and shall be satisfied. When we were when we left the good land around Tallahassee and Miccosukee, which is now covered by the Whiteskins, we stopped at the big swamp because we knew we could not live further south. And because we were to hold by Governor and because we were told by Governor Duval that we might do so and that we should have the land, we now claim and fulfill his promise and of that in the treaty. We were often deceived by the Spaniards. They made promises they never kept. But we were told the Americans are straight people. We believed it. We hope we shall never have cause to change our minds. You say our great Father sent help to our people who have been hungry because they could not make no corn last year. We feel thankful of this and will not forget it. So one of the problems is that they had a drought, and their crop totally failed. You tell us at the same time that our great father says we must, in the future, rely upon ourselves and by our industry provide for our own, or rely upon ourselves and by our own industry provide for our own support. We do not complain of this, but we expect he will not deny us such lands as will enable us to do so. You say, too, our great father does not wish to oppose his red children. We believe it, and that he will keep the treaty and give us more land. We ask that the north line of our territory be removed so as to embrace a small swamp we call Weetoxie. This will enable us to live and make us contented. Brother, you tell us that our great father owns a great country over the big river towards the setting sun that he is willing to give us a part of, and we'll go there. And he advised us to send some of our chiefs with the Muskogees when they go to look at it and bring back word what sort of country it is. So they're already talking Indian removal and sending them out to the west at this point and wanting to unite them with the Creeks, but the Seminoles, Miccosukees are not having it at this point. We have already said we do not intend to move again. If the Muskogees have a disposition to go further towards the setting sun, we are perfectly willing they should go, but we will not go with them. We have no friends there. The people of that country are strangers to us. The Muskogees invited us to go with them, but was only to make their party stronger. We will not involve ourselves in the trouble of the Muskogees. We are a separate people, not having have it. We are a separate people and have nothing to do with them. We came, brother, not to see Muskogees, but hold talk with our great father on our own affairs and to claim of him more land in our own country. Most of us were born on the land we now inhabit, and that which we claim to be surrendered to us. Here our navel strings were first cut, and the blood of them sunk in the earth and made the country dear to us. We heard that the Spaniards sold the country to the Americans. This they had no right to do. The land was not theirs, but belonged to the Seminoles. Brother, we have come here where we should find Spanish, English, French, and Americans to talk with our great father about this matter and have to put it right. We have we have not yet seen our great father. We have come many days' travel to see him and do not wish to return without shaking hands with him. You tell us, brother, that our great father, so, sorry here, has heard that we have runaway slaves in our country and that many of our people hide them from their owners. It is true that some slaves ran away from the whites and have come into our country. Most of them, however, were given up before we left home. We think that by this time the rest of them are with the owners. We left orders with some of our chiefs to have them taken and brought to the agency. We do not like the story that our people hide the runaway Negroes from their masters. It is not a true talk. Our people have not done this. We do not consider ourselves bound by the treaty to take up any runaway slaves, but those who have entered our country since the making of so, so, uh, who have entered the country since the making of the treaty. But we have never prevented whites from coming in our country, taking their slaves whenever they could find them, and we will not hereafter oppose their doing so, but will give them all the assistance we can. So they're at this point they're kind of subtly complaining about the treatment. The white man can do this, but they can't go and do the same in the white man's country. Brother, we are glad to hear that our Negroes held by the whites are to be claimed for us. That is right. We hope that our great Father will put it in the power of our agent to see justice done in this matter. We do not know if the white people will mind his talks when he demands our property, for they are not willing to do right when they can avoid it. The laws of our nation are strong and oblige a man having the property of another in his possession to give it up to the right owner. The laws of the whites, who have so much better sense than the red man, ought not to be less powerful and just. So you say, brother, you say that some of our young men are not always good and that they go among the whites and kill their stock. A few of them have done this and we have punished them for it, and we have lately made such laws as we think will prevent their going any more. It is not our wish to disturb our white neighbors, but to live in friendship with them. Brother, you tell that our great Father wishes to place a school in our nation to teach our children to read and write. We do not wish one at all. So here it gets a little interesting is that he tells a story of why they do not want a school is that the Indians were not made to read and write, but that's what the white man has for their skill. But the white man gained this skill by deceit and treachery. If the Indian had gained it, then they would have shared it with the white man, and the races would have been equal on their standing. It's kind of interesting because the story seems to be similar to the story of Isaac in the Bible, giving the blessing to his son between Jacob and Esau, and Esau being deceitful and using deceitful methods to steal the blessing and birthright that was meant for Jacob. So it sounds almost exactly the same, but let me read the story. We do not believe the Great Spirit intended us to know how to read and write, for if he intended this, he would have given us the knowledge as early as he gave it to the white people. Now it is too late. The white people have gained an advantage and we can never recover, and it is better for us to remain as we are, red men, and live in our own way. Brother, among our people is thought that at the time when there were but two kinds of people, the red and the white, on the earth, a book was placed by the Great Spirit in the hands of an old man, blind and with a long beard, who told the red and the white man that he who killed the first deer should receive the book as his reward and be learnt to read it. Both went out to hunt different ways. The white man, after going a little way, found a sheep, which being not so wild as the deer, he easily killed. He took his sheep to the blind man. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, he took his sheep to the blind man and told him it was a deer. The old man believed him and gave him the book and learned him how to read it. The red man soon after brought in a deer, but he was too late. The white man had got the book. If this cheat had not been practiced, the red man would have been now as the white man is, and he as the red man. Brother, it is the Great Spirit he had is the if the Great Spirit had intended that the red man should know how to read, he would not have allowed the white man to take this advantage of us. I think I'm behind on my pictures. Anyway, Oh, here, I'm all right. I'm almost finished here. Brother, the business we have come here upon is very important to our nation. We ju- we wish to have it settled soon that we may return to our homes and or make the hearts of our people glad by telling them what we have done. Brother, we send you this talk and take the hand you offer us, and we'll hold it till we get your answer. Signed Tecosia Mathla or John Hicks, Head Chief, Miccanopi, Huata Miko, Tulsi Mathla, Fukalasti Hadjo, Nia Mathla, Icho Tustanugi. And all those chiefs, there's actually paintings. McKay Hall did paintings of all of them that you can look up. Washington, D.C., May 17th, 1826. Signed Gad Humphreys, Indian agent. So that's a very interesting talk. That's a talk of John Hicks they intended to take to President John Quincy Adams of their treatment, some issues, and talk face to face. It's just very interesting of his point of view and his beliefs at the time. So I hope you enjoyed that. And that's all for now.